Welcome to Explore with Adam. Today we're going to dive into some ancient mysteries, specifically the Anunnaki. These figures from Sumerian texts have sparked just endless fascination and debate. Are they just mythological deities, or could there be something more to their story?
Well, what makes it so captivating is that the Anunnaki weren't just some obscure figures in Sumerian mythology. Imagine a society where these beings were deeply ingrained in every aspect of life,
Oh.
worshipped as powerful deities who, according to their texts, came from heaven to earth.
Okay, so they were a big deal to the Sumerians. But what does that actually mean? What kind of evidence do we have for their importance in Sumerian culture?
Well, we're talking elaborate ceremonies, offerings, incredible statues, their presence woven into the very fabric of their society. You see, we actually get a glimpse into their significance from one of the oldest known stories, the Epic of Gilgamesh.
Now, for those of us who might not be familiar with ancient Sumerian literature, could you give us like a quick rundown of what the Epic of Gilgamesh is all about?
Absolutely. The Epic of Gilgamesh is this incredibly rich text, one of the earliest surviving works of literature. It tells the story of King Gilgamesh, a demigod on a quest for immortality. And guess who plays a crucial role in his adventures? The Anunnaki.
No way.
They act as judges, advisors, even influencing the course of his journey. This highlights their perceived power and influence in the Sumerian worldview.
So we've established that the Anunnaki were pretty important to the Sumerians. But this is where things get really interesting, right? Because the interpretation of these beings goes beyond just powerful gods.
Uh-huh.
Some theorists suggest they were something a bit more extraterrestrial.
That's right. We can't discuss the Anunnaki without addressing the ancient alien theory. And a key figure in this line of thinking is author Zecharia Sitchin and his book, The 12th Planet.
Okay, so Sitchin is looking at the same Sumerian texts, the same stories about these powerful beings descending from the heavens. But his interpretation is a little different.
Yeah, exactly. Sitchin's theory proposes that the Anunnaki weren't gods in the traditional sense, but rather advanced beings from a planet called Nibiru, with a particular interest in Earth's resources, specifically gold.
Wait, hold on. Let's back up for a second. A planet called Nibiru. What do we know about this supposed planet, and why would they need gold from Earth?
Sitchin describes Nibiru as having this incredibly long elliptical orbit, only passing by Earth every 3,600 years. According to his interpretation of Sumerian texts, Nibiru's atmosphere was damaged, and they needed gold to help repair it. And wouldn't you know it, Earth had just the gold they needed.
So they came to Earth on a mission to mine gold. And this is where humans come into the picture, right?
Precisely. Now, this is where things get really controversial. Sitchin suggests that the Anunnaki, facing the daunting task of mining all this gold, decided to genetically engineer humans to serve as their workforce, essentially creating us to be their miners.
So according to Sitchin, humans are the product of alien genetic engineering, all in the name of galactic gold mining. A pretty wild concept to wrap your head around.
It definitely is. And as you can imagine, this theory has sparked a lot of debate. Yeah, it's a bold claim, to say the least. Many scholars, especially those in mainstream archaeology and history, are incredibly skeptical of Sitchin's interpretations.
Yeah, I can imagine. What are some of the main arguments against his theory?
Well, a lot of the criticism centers around his translation and interpretation of Sumerian texts. Critics argue that he takes certain passages out of context, misinterprets metaphors and symbolism, and sometimes even mistranslates key words to fit his narrative.
So essentially the debate boils down to how we're reading and understanding these ancient texts.
That's a big part of it, but it's also about the lack of physical evidence. We haven't found any archaeological proof of these advanced Anunnaki,
Right.
their technology, or their supposed gold mining operations.
That's a good point. But even with the skepticism, even if we take the alien interpretation with a grain of salt, there's still this undeniable fact. The Sumerians were incredibly advanced for their time.
Absolutely, and this is where things get really intriguing, even for the skeptics. Think about it. We're talking about a civilization that emerged around 4000 BCE, and yet they developed incredible innovations. The wheel-wine, the plow-riding systems, complex mathematics, astronomy, sophisticated irrigation systems.
Wow.
These are achievements that even today are impressive.
It really makes you wonder, how did they manage to develop such advanced knowledge so early in human history? Could there be any truth to the idea of outside influence, even if it wasn't necessarily alien astronauts?
That's a question that continues to fascinate researchers. Now, while most historians attribute these advancements to human ingenuity and cultural exchange, there are some who suggest the possibility of knowledge transfer from an unknown source. Perhaps a lost civilization, a forgotten chapter in human history.
Okay, so we've got this puzzle. Ancient texts that hint at powerful beings descending from the heavens. A civilization with surprisingly advanced knowledge for its time, and a lot of debate about what it all means.
Exactly. And that debate extends beyond just archaeology and history. It touches upon our understanding of religion, our place in the universe, and the very nature of human origins.
Speaking of religion, I'm reminded of something you mentioned earlier, the recurring themes in ancient creation myths across different cultures. Could you elaborate on that a little?
Of course. You see, it's not just the Sumerian texts that speak of these powerful beings interacting with humans. Similar themes pop up in ancient myths and legends around the world.
Oh, really? Like what kind of themes are we talking about?
Well, think about the idea of a great flood wiping out almost all of humanity. It's not just in the biblical story of Noah's Ark. It appears in Mesopotamian mythology, in Greek mythology, in Hindu mythology, even in ancient Chinese and Native American traditions.
That's fascinating. And it's not just the flood myth, right? There are other recurring themes as well.
Precisely. The idea of gods descending from the heavens, interacting with humans, creating humans, even punishing humans for their transgressions. These themes appear in cultures all over the world, often with striking similarities.
Huh. It's almost like these ancient cultures were tapping into some shared knowledge, some universal story.
That's one way to look at it. And this is where the Anunnaki theory and the broader question of ancient alien influence really captures the imagination. What if these seemingly separate myths and legends are actually echoes of a shared experience, a forgotten chapter in human history?
So instead of just viewing these as isolated myths, we could see them as potential pieces of a much larger puzzle, possibly hinting at a connection to something beyond our current understanding. It's a pretty mind-blowing concept.
It is. And it forces us to confront some fundamental questions. Where do we come from? Are we alone in the universe? What if our history is far more complex and mysterious than we ever imagined?
These are questions that have captivated humans for centuries. And it seems like with the Anunnaki, we're dealing with a subject that touches on those very questions, pushing us to reconsider our place in the cosmos and the possibility of a past that extends far beyond our current understanding. It's like we're standing at the edge of this vast, unknown territory, and the Anunnakis are beckoning us to explore further.
And that exploration, that journey of discovery, is what truly matters. Even if we never uncover definitive proof of their existence or their influence, the process of asking these questions, of examining the evidence, of challenging our assumptions, is what expands our understanding of ourselves and the universe we inhabit.
So where does this leave us? We've explored Sumerian texts, delved into the ancient alien theory, touched on the recurring themes in global mythology, and even acknowledged the remarkable achievements of the Sumerian civilization. What are we supposed to make of all this?
Well, that's the beauty of it. There's no simple answer, no definitive conclusion. The Anunnaki remain an enigma, a puzzle with pieces scattered across time and cultures. And it's up to each of us to decide how we want to approach this mystery.
Do you think it's even possible to separate the myth from reality when it comes to the Anunnaki?
That's a difficult question. You see, ancient cultures didn't necessarily make the same distinctions between myth and reality that we do today. Their stories, their myths, were their way of explaining the world around them, their history, their beliefs. And those stories often blended factual events with symbolism, allegory, and spiritual interpretations.
So it's not just a matter of saying, okay, this part is fact and this part is fiction. It's about understanding the context, the cultural lens through which these stories were told and passed down through generations.
Precisely. And that requires a certain level of open-mindedness, a willingness to consider alternative interpretations, even if they challenge our preconceived notions.
It's like holding a piece of a puzzle and trying to figure out where it fits. We might have some clues, some edges that seem to align, but the full picture remains elusive.
And maybe that's okay. Maybe the true value lies in the search itself, in the pursuit of knowledge, the exploration of possibilities, the expansion of our understanding. After all, the universe is full of mysteries, and who knows what incredible discoveries await us just beyond the horizon of our current knowledge.
Well said. I think this deep dive has been a fantastic reminder that there's still so much we don't know, and that's something to be excited about, not intimidated by.
Exactly. So to everyone listening out there, I encourage you to keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep that spark of curiosity burning bright. Whether it's the mysteries of ancient civilizations, the search for extraterrestrial life, or any other topic that ignites your imagination, the pursuit of knowledge is a journey worth taking.
I couldn't agree more. And who knows, maybe one day we'll have some definitive answers about the Anunnaki. But until then, the mystery continues to fascinate and the debate rages on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the enigma of the Anunnaki.
It's been a pleasure exploring with you.
Until next time, keep looking up, keep digging deeper, and keep those minds open to the wonders and mysteries of the universe.